Hello, everybody out there, and welcome to another episode of the Talk That Talk Show with me, Barry Holmes. You already know the vibes. It's a Friday night. We're out here, another episode. It's our 49th episode, our 49th installment of the Talk That Talk Show, and I'm just as excited as if this was episode 1. It's been a long week. We had a lot of things that have happened in both the sports world and also in our own society outside of sports. And like I said, I'm just very happy to live another day here, corona-free, as far as I know, right? But it's just really important to continue to do the things that we want to do, have fun with the people that are the most, significant to us, and then also to try and keep a positive mind frame, right? I know it's very, very difficult, and I've talked to some of my closest friends and talked to some of my family members about just how difficult it is to stay positive. I feel like for essential workers, for non-essential workers, whether you're unemployed or employed, I just feel like this virus has been something that has touched so many different people. And like I said before, it was hard for a lot of people to understand or to relate to this or to understand the severity of it, because I feel like that a lot of people weren't directly affected. And each and every day, more and more, I'm starting to see more people that are directly affected by this, and more families and more friends that are losing their lives from this. And I think that, again, not to continue to talk about this coronavirus, but it's something that's very, very important, and it's something that's devastating our entire country and people around the world, right? I think one of the things that's even the most difficult, especially for me and a lot of my friends that live here in New Jersey, is just the fact that I'm at home and I wake up in the morning and you're hearing about hundreds of different cases that are being found out. And I looked just recently, and I live in Middlesex County. I'm a Middlesex County resident. I live here in Edison. And, there's 7,308 cases of this coronavirus here in Middlesex County and 309 deaths, right? So when you think about this in terms of the large scale, New Jersey is the second highest in this country and has continued to still rise. But, amongst all these different things that have happened, there are some positives that have come from this coronavirus or that's starting to, be brought about. And one of the things that I did see that I don't know if anybody saw in the news is the fact that they had just approved or just come up with this saliva test over at Rutgers University, right? And that's right down the block from us. And, I never claimed to be any type of doctor. I try to be, do my research and look and see things before I make it accurate, to decipher how I feel about certain things. And one of the things that I saw about this was I saw hope, right? When you're able to, create these saliva tests so that, multiple people can find out, I think this is groundbreaking as far as what can help us to actually get back to that normalcy that we're trying to look for, right? When you're looking at some of these tests, I saw before that, the tests, they were so excruciating where you're trying to stick it up people's nostrils, and it's like, what's going to make people want to, get tested for that, right? But if you can have the saliva test, you can test thousands and thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people quickly, and that way we can actually see who has it, who doesn't, and how can we move forward from that, right? And, when we talk about the different things as far as how this surrounds and how we can make this possible to get things to be better, I think that if you can test, all these different people and, from there, we can start to decipher the problem or how we can separate and see how we can see. Because the thing that's most difficult, and I think that the thing is most overlooked about this, is the fact that it is asymptomatic. When you look at the qualifications to actually get yourself tested, you have to test positive for a fever. You have to have, respiratory failures and stuff like that. And if you're starting to showcase these symptoms before it might be too late for you, right? So, if we can develop or come up with some sort of system to get everyone tested. I know we had Sam Joshi on here. Maybe I got to do my due diligence to reach out to the councilman and say, how can we get everyone tested so that we know what we can do to move forward? And I think that that's a if this can really move forward past the FDA and we can have people that can get regulated and that can get tested, we can hopefully take the right steps for prevention. Because I feel like, from what I've seen across the timelines and stuff like that, we still have people that are not practicing the social distancing. And, I hate to be repetitive, but, we have people that are dying out here, man. Like, as much as I want to see my friends and as much as, I'm looking to go back outside to the beaches, we got to do our due diligence to try and make sure that we can beat this. I mean, if you look at sports, you have someone like Von Miller who just tested positive for the coronavirus, right? And, he's saying that he took every single precaution to make sure that he could not get this. And I think that was the one thing to me that was the most scary about this, is the fact that here you have people that are taking the proper preventative measures, everything that you need to do, and yet you still have people that are getting and contracting this virus, man. And, like I said, it's very, very scary. And especially for me, for someone that lives in the tri-state area, we just have to do our due diligence to try and make sure that we can stay corona-free, whatever that is, whether that's social distancing, whether that's, extreme cleaning and cleaning your hands, making sure you have that sanitation right. These are the things that we need to do so that I can actually talk about sports again, so we can have some sports to talk about, right? Shout out to everybody that's on our live stream. We got Richard NG, Danny Rosa, Jeff Farrell, my boy Reese, Ryan Mackey, Eric Mackin, Rick Chianacki. What's up, brother? We got Antoine Jefferson, Mary Beth Heaney, Lizard. We got Kenya Solano, Barang Ju. So thank you to everybody that's here on our Facebook live stream. And we definitely got to give a special shout out to our sponsors at VW Liquors, located in Wick Plaza, Edison, New Jersey. They actually, I went over there and I got this one beer today, was it a couple days ago. And this one is called the Hoffa beer. It's a Pilsner, and it's something I decided to go with today because, I definitely want to, again, continue to support local businesses and support the people in here that are in New Jersey that are still trying to, make things happen and trying to get, their work out there. And, this brewery, I believe it's called the Bolero Snort Brewery from New Jersey, is definitely one that I've really enjoyed. And VW Liquors, like I said, I can't say enough to Dave in terms of just how well he's doing his, trying to constantly keep different beers in there and keep things in rotation. And one of the favorite things that I have with me and my dad is just going there and picking and seeing what is it we're going to have next, right? So this one, if you have your beer out there, cheers up. I'm having the Hoffa beer. I'll tell you again at the end of the show so that maybe you can try this one out yourself. Glug, 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 glug. Oh yeah, that feels good. That tastes good. Then we also got to give a special shout out to our sponsors at Executive Bar and Restaurant, located in 30 Menu Street, Carteret, New Jersey. And then we also want to give a big shout out to my boy Cody Bromley at 91s.com. He's got the best acid wash apparel in the game. He actually asked me to take a picture in my fly stuff, so I'm going to send one over there. So you definitely got to check him out at 91s Co on Instagram. And hopefully you'll see my beautiful shining face in a nice advertisement soon. But one of the things that I did see, and I know that we were always talking about one of the things that people have been looking to do or looking to watch, as far as with this quarantining is, trying different shows out, trying out different documentaries on Netflix. And one of the things that I saw, besides Tiger King, I'm sure everybody's been talking about this Tiger King. And by the way, I do think Carol Baskin did kill her husband. I'm going to go on there and say that. I think Carol Baskin did it.
He was tiger food?
Yeah, on Tiger King. I think she did it. I mean, anytime you say, the only way to get a tiger to eat somebody is to rub something, some type of oil on them. I mean, that there is a confession for me. So, if you get a chance, definitely check out Tiger King. But one of the things that I was looking for, or I'm definitely looking forward to, is this documentary on Michael Jordan called The Last Dance. And that's going to be on Sunday, 9 p.m. on ESPN. Rick Chianacki said that he's actually excited for that documentary too. But I think this is going to be very, very big because one of the things that I don't know whether it's propaganda or whether it's somebody, trying to get a little hype, But Michael Jordan said that, when people see this documentary of him, it might have a definitely a changing effect on some of the people that do like Jordan, right? And I think this kind of raises the point, or raises the question of, do we really want to know what it takes to be great, right? I think that a lot of people, are very consumed, or they definitely want to be great. They have aspirations of being the best at whatever their field is. But I think this documentary with Michael Jordan is really going to give us an in-depth look as far as the mindset of somebody that winning was 100% his focus, right? And, I did some of the readings. I think Jackie McMullen, shout out to her, she had produced an article not too long ago that kind of prefaced or gave a little preview as far as this documentary. And she recalled some of the different stories about Jordan, about how he held some of his teammates that didn't exactly have all of the talent, but he held them to an impossible standard, right? And I feel like, from seeing that, in this documentary, it's going to definitely give us a huge different perspective as far as, how Jordan really is, right? I think I also recall something where, he's joking around, trash talking people. I know they said he's a big gambler and stuff. And, these are all things that could be kind of intertwined as far as this documentary. So, for me personally, I'm just really interested to see how is he really holding, these other guys accountable. People like, Pippen, Tony Kukoc, all those guys, Steve Kerr, that made that Bulls team, especially in that last run. I mean, that arguably, besides the Warriors team not too long ago with Kevin Durant, that Bulls team, that 98 team, was arguably one of the best of all time. So to be able to come into that and get that behind-the-scenes perspective is just, it's going to be really interesting to see. And it's something that I'm looking forward to. And I feel like, especially in a time like now where we don't exactly have live sports to look forward to, I think that we're doing, everybody else is doing a great job as far as highlighting those stars around the sport, to how can I say, to bring, attention back to it and still keep our minds fresh about the sports that we like to watch. I know not too long ago, I think the Golf Channel had replayed the Masters tournament, the one that Tiger Woods had won. And when I think about some of the greatest athletes of all time, you got to put Tiger up there as well too. And I think the big thing as far as what that was is kind of like showing that retribution, or him, rising back to dominance. And, from seeing that on the Masters, I feel like that only got me even more hyped for this, Jordan documentary, because, when you talk about some of the greatest athletes of all time, I mean, it's no question you got to put either Tiger Woods or Michael Jordan up there, because, the way both of them dominated their respective sports. I mean, what's the guy, Rory McIlroy, who's one of the best golfers out there? He would have to be on pace for the same thing for 12 straight years just to try and even match Tiger Woods, right? So I feel like, in the NBA side of things, where you have people that are constantly arguing for LeBron James, and they're arguing for Kobe Bryant as some of the best basketball players of all time, I think Jordan is that litmus test, or he is that standard that we hold greatness to, right? It's like, who is as great as Jordan? Who is greater than Jordan? What are the stats that it takes to get somebody to be held higher of regard than Jordan, right? Oh, another one we got to put in there, Wayne Gretzky is some of the greatest athletes of all time. You had Wayne Gretzky, who, went to multiple different teams and was able to kill it, right? And his dominance lasted for multiple generations, right? And I think the great thing, or one of the biggest things that we now get to see now that we don't have sports, is the fact that we're able to reflect and appreciate just the amount of things that all the great ones have done for us and have allowed us to watch, right? I think that, this Jordan documentary is going to be very big, especially in terms of looking at how we view other of the bigger athletes or big name athletes that are the greatest of all times. And are we going to start to see more of these type of documentaries that come out? But, I think that, the bottom line with this is that, we are really going to get an in-depth analysis of what does it take to be great, right? So if you do get a chance and if you're looking for something different to watch, definitely check out The Last Dance. I think it's airing on Sunday night at 9 p.m., right? And another thing that I saw that was really interesting and that might really change the landscape of sports is the fact that we have had this new revelation that's come about, right? So you have a guy named Jalen Green who is the number one prospect in, basketball right now. He's coming out of California. And instead of going to, the college route, this guy, and instead of going international route, he's decided to make his professional route to go to the G League, right? And now this is kind of like highlighting. We saw somebody before, I think his name was Hampton or whatever, the guy. He decided to go overseas. We saw LaMelo Ball who decided to go overseas. And now you're starting to see now this guy who said, hey, I don't want to go overseas. I don't want to go to college. I'm going to make my money in the G League. And I think this is pretty interesting because it's really going to open up the door. And I think that it raises this real big question as far as what do we define as an elite prospect, right? Because here we have the number one prospect in Jalen Green, and this guy has been killing it throughout the ranks of California and has now elevated himself into a professional contract already. Now, what does that entail? But right off the rip from him joining this G League affiliate or, saying I'm declaring to the G League, this guy gets $500,000. Now, can you imagine as a 17, 18-year-old kid, you're getting $500,000, not even to go into the NBA yet, but to be a part of a G League affiliate. And I think this raises the questions of, what are we going to do, or what are the priorities of the NBA? Because when we look before, the initial rule that was in place before is that we had one-and-done athletes, right? We had people like Kevin Garnett. You had somebody in Andrew Bynum, these players that were going from high school straight to the NBA. And we saw that we do have the Kevin Garnetts that were able to win championships, but you also have some of those players out there that were one and dones or that went straight to from high school to the NBA that did not have the success, right? And I think the biggest thing, or what we're talking about now is that Adam Silver has recognized that people are now starting to get around this one and done rule, right? You had the John Walls that made it exciting to where you go to college for 1 year, then you're gone. You have the Kyrie Irvings that coined it, right? But now we're starting to see that these younger talented players are starting to leave to go overseas. They're starting to leave and they're going to these different overseas and they're trying to skip college. And I think what the NBA is starting to see is that they have to send these scouts overseas. They're having to send them to other places. And if you're looking at the NBA as being one of the top developmental leagues, right? They're trying to keep all their talent in the NBA. So if you're saying that you don't want to go overseas, you don't want to go to college, we're going to develop you right here. And what this guy Green is going to have is he's going to have $500,000 on his contract and he gets 1 year of development, right? Now, the one thing that I think that I've said it in this last episode is going to be very important is how are you going to make sure that if we're going to provide, these young kids with $500,000, can we give them a financial advisor? Can we give someone to help them manage this money? Because like CJ McCollum said, you have NBA players that are living paycheck to paycheck. They just said it that the NBA is going to reduce their the contracts of the players by 25%. So if the NBA is not able to resume, the player's going to lose 25% of their contracts, right? So now you talk about a young guy who's going to hopefully join the G League affiliate next year and get $500,000. What does that mean? Well, if you look at the veterans minimum as far as what you get paid in the NBA, these guys for 1 year in the NBA, for 1 year, right? So if you have no experience, this is your first year in there, you are guaranteed to make $800,000, right? So if your guaranteed minimum on the first year is to get $800,000 and we're paying a top prospect $500,000, Look at what it takes for 10 years in the NBA. 10 years in the NBA, you are guaranteed to make $2.5 million, right? That's only $2 million. I know we say only $2 million, right? But if you're giving these young players that much money ahead of time, it's really going to start to open the floodgates as far as these players that are going to want to go to the G League instead of going to college, instead of going overseas. And then, like I said, the biggest question is going to be, how do we define a top prospect, right? So what if you have this guy in Green, what's his name, Jalen Green, who's a top prospect in California, right? Do you still hold that top prospect in the same regard as somebody that's in the top prospect in Utah, right? Utah might not be one of the biggest places, but how do we still rank them, right? Does this guy still get $500,000? What about the guy in Mississippi who might be just as good as the guy Jalen Green in California, but he wants to get a contract too? So I think that this is a great idea by the NBA, but it's definitely going to take a little bit of working as far as what do we define as a top talent, or what are we going to say is the criteria for you to be an elite player. Do you need to have 2,000 points scored in high school? Do you need to have won 2 or 3 state championships? What is the criteria to say what is an elite prospect? And I think that is going to be the only reason, the only stipulation as to why this may not work for the NBA. Now, the next thing that I know that a lot of people are excited about is the fact that the NFL draft is next week. One of the things that I really love is, just seeing how, these players are going to turn out and what, team is going to get that steal of the draft. I said last year, and I said it on this show, so maybe I'm right, I don't know, but I said that DK Metcalf was going to be the best in the draft, right? And you saw that DK Metcalf had an incredible year. You still had Kyler Murray, who won the Offensive Player of the Year. And, I think that we're starting to see the trend in these NFL drafts is that, for a lot of, teams out there, the draft is huge because in years past, or maybe when we were younger, you saw that a lot of guys that got drafted, it took them a little bit of time to get into the offense, to get into the flow of things. We're starting to see now in the NFL that these players are plug and play ready, right? We are getting them in right away. And I think that, when we look at this NFL draft, one of the things that everybody's been saying is that this is a hugely quarterback deep draft, right? You have guys like Justin Herbert. You have guys like Jordan Love, Tua Tagovailoa, Joe Burrow, Jacob Fromm. There's a lot of good quarterbacks out there that could potentially help out a franchise that is looking to take the next step. But if you're looking at me and I'm saying I'm taking 2 quarterbacks off the rip that I think that are really going to affect a team right away, you got no further look than Joe Burrow. I mean, the guy went undefeated at LSU. I mean, he was dropping, 40 points a game with that team. I mean, the guy has an incredible arm talent. But, even if he goes to Cincinnati at the number 1 pick, I just don't know if he's going to be enough to get that team to where they need to be because they have major, major issues. But all aside from that, I think that Joe Burrow is going to be one of the, the top quarterbacks in this draft. Another person who I think, that everybody is really hype on is Tua. But I think that Justin Herbert is going to be somebody that can really plug and play right now and that has the game most suited to go into the NFL right now next to Joe Burrow. And one of the other things that we've started to see is that the offensive talent is really carrying these teams into playoffs, and you're starting to see significant offensive players that are making contributions. And look no further than who is the people that the quarterbacks are throwing it to. And, the wide receiver class looks pretty deep too. Some of the guys that I really like that have been in the top headlines you have is CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma. You got Jerry Jeudy out of Alabama, Justin Jefferson out of LSU, and then T. Higgins out of Clemson. The 2 guys that I really like out of that wide receivers that might be those top picks, I definitely like T. Higgins and I like CeeDee Lamb. I think what we saw from Hollywood Brown last year is kind of like a resurgence of the smaller wide receivers, right? So, we had the Megatrons of the world and the Randy Mosses where you had guys that were really tall and big and Julio Jones-ish that could just catch over you, right? So now we're starting to see the resurgence of these smaller wide receivers that are speedsters, that have excellent hands, right? And we're starting to see that the league is starting to transition to that. So when I see that transition, I can look no further than a CD Lamb or a T. Higgins. Somebody also said Riggs from Alabama. That's another good pick. He might not have exactly as the breakaway speed as some of these other players do, but he's another good pick as well. But this is going to be a very interesting draft, man. And, when you look as far as the way the offenses are looking, those are my two target areas of where I see that, they can directly affect the team and help them to go farther, right? I know we have Chase Young as the edge rusher who's probably going to go number 2 to the Redskins. But, I think that when you think defensively, defenses are something that definitely wins championships. But as far as in the draft, I feel like if you want people that are going to help you right now, you got to get yourself either a quarterback or wide receiver. I know it's all based off of, team needs. But when you think about and how these games are directly affected, it's the league is an offensive league. So you got to get some of those top talented guys out there, right? Another thing that we did see is that, with the adaptation of this coronavirus, we actually are seeing a technological surge, right? We see all the different leagues that are trying to do different things to try and make sure that their leagues are still sustainable and still working. And what the NFL has done, because we can't have an NFL draft, like we normally do where everybody comes and sees, they're actually having it done from each of the team representatives' houses, right? So each team, you might say, well, what if you lag out, right? Each team has 3 different representatives that can make a pick for them in this draft. And on Monday, they're actually going to be doing a mock run of some of the old players, and some of the teams are going to get a chance to, test run how this digital draft is going to go. And they're going to be able to draft some of the older players, which should be pretty fun, right? But the main thing is that even though this coronavirus is here, we still have ways to go around that and to make things to continue to go forward, right? And I think in that same realm of the NFL, trying to keep their NFL draft going by having Roger Goodell announce picks from his basement, right? We can't let this coronavirus stop us from moving forward, right? And I think that's the biggest thing that we can take away from the NFL switching to a digital, NFL draft is the fact that, this coronavirus is here. It ain't going anywhere anytime soon. So, in that same regard, we still have to do the things in place to try and move forward past it, right? So, if you're somebody who's, a teacher, continue to do your best job at, teaching from home. We appreciate you so much for continuing to teach our, our youth out there. If you are somebody that's in the bank, thank you so much. I'm sure a lot of people are getting that stimulus check and wondering when they can take that money out, right? So, whether you're essential, non-essential, whatever, continue to find ways to continue to move forward. And, that's the best way to try and attack this, right? I know everybody's super hype about getting that stimulus check. It was funny because I was on Xbox. I think it was like early in the morning, and I was talking with my boy Lou. We were playing 2K. Shout out to Louis Guerra. But, we had saw that, it went right into the account, and I was like, wow. I feel so stimulated, right? You got this 1,200, and I think it's pretty interesting to see, just what this 1,200 is going to do for so many different people out there, right? I had my one friend Theo, shout out to him, but he took it as, I'm about to get jig real quick. He got himself a couple of hats. But, for those people out there that really need that money, this is huge for a lot of people. And one of the things that I didn't even see or didn't even think about was the fact that, I had already gotten my stimulus check. I got it through direct deposit, just like, some of the other Americans out there. But there are a lot of people that did not get direct deposit, right? So there are still people that are waiting for these stimulus checks, right? So, I think it's pretty interesting to see, just how, like we talk about technology, right? And how we can try and advance things and get past it, right? And you have Trump, who was able to, I guess, wire us the money, direct deposit, but we still have people that are waiting on this stimulus check, right? So, the crazy thing, or the things that we got to do looking forward, I know they had passed the bill, or not passed the bill, but there's something in the works with the Democrats and trying to get us $2,000 each month. And I'm sure that could help out a lot of people, especially since unemployment is spiked, right? I got to tell you, I can't tell you it's the toughest thing, man, to go through each and every day and you don't really have any type of certainty. And, when you try to look for jobs and there's not really anything that's out there right now and you're not willing to put anybody at risk, that may be your family member by being in an essential job, right? So, I can't tell you how much that stimulus check meant to me because, student loans ain't stopping for me. So I had to put that towards my student loans, but, it's just interesting to see about, how the stimulation is affecting different people and just how they're taking that money. So, if you're someone that got that stimulus check, just look at what you need. Think about, do you really need that? Or can you save that for when maybe we can get out and have a good time after this corona? But, don't let anybody else tell you what you should do with your stimulus check, right? Because that is yours and it's whatever you need to do and whatever you can take to make yourself getting a little bit better. So that's one of the things that I did see was that, people were trying to shame other people on Facebook and saying, oh, you got your money first, so you needed it more, so you made less money. And I think that as a whole, we shouldn't be trying to bring other people down, but especially in times like this, just try and elevate each other, right? Like I said, ask your friends, see how they're doing. Text your some of your other family members, see if they need anything, right? And let's get through this together, right? This is you guys are all my family out there. Shout out to Ethan Bayer, Matt Kuyumjan, Aisha Simone, Erica Julin, Josh Williams, David Rudder, Alex Balonis, Naya Santiago. Ooh, she even commented. She said the NCAA is going to become obsolete when it comes to the top tier athletes. And that's true. Can you imagine if this past college season, if we didn't have Zion Williamson, if he went straight to the G League, right? So you're 100% right about that, Naya. We might see that a lot of these top tier players might not go to our top tier programs. And then shout out to Rob Pfeiffer. We had so many people here on the Facebook live stream today. Like I said, you are all my family. I thank you so much for, listening to me each and every week. One of the things that I've been doing, to try and move forward past this, right, is I've seen that I've been playing a lot more video games of late. So what I did was I set up my Twitch account because I saw that the MLB has an entire league that I talked about last episode, an entire league that is being streamed through Twitch. So what does that difference for me, right? So if I'm spending time on there, I've been streaming on Twitch. So now what you can do is you can check me out on twitch.tv/BarryBucketsGaming. And I'm streaming some of my video games as well, too. So, I'm definitely trying to find different ways to continue to create content past this corona. The main thing is just, trying to stay busy, stay active, and stay positive. Like I said, I think I said it in a conversation with Andrew, but it's like, if you don't have anything to look forward to, it could be a very long day, right? And, I was joking around with my one friend, and I was telling my boy that, this is all I got, man. This is this is the one thing I have to look forward to the week. And every single one of you that tunes in, you are a part of the reason why I feel so excited to wake up on a Friday. Because I know I get to come out here and pour my mind into this mic. And we have people that want to hear it. So, I thank you, as always, for tuning in to this episode of the Talk That Talk Show.
Talk that talk!
49 episodes in. We're closing in on 4,000 total downloads. We got over 50 subscribers on our YouTube channel. Like I said, this is a show that ain't going anywhere anytime soon, right? We're going to continue to move forward. Hopefully, in these next coming weeks, we'll find out a little bit more about when maybe this can get done a little bit better so we can go and have sports. I know we have the committee set up so that we can try and get these sports teams out and playing again soon. We might have some sites like some states like either Texas or Florida that just reopened that we could potentially have games at. But, the one thing that I do want to say, or the one thing that I want to make very clear is that, as much as sports are important in my life, we definitely have to keep sports in perspective. And I was talking to my friend, and one of the things he said was that, even though sports, are important, it's not more important than our own personal survival, right? So whereas, we're all up in arms and trying to get back the NBA, NHL, and the MLB, I'm right on board with that, but not at the cost of our own people, right? I mean, when you look as far as some of the different types of ways they're trying to get, these sports started, as far as, no fans, or having, one state hosting all the games, I think that that's all good and dandy, but I want to make sure that we are 100% good before we get any of the sports back, right? I've seen way too many people die from this coronavirus. And, like I said on the last show, I'm not dying just to see LeBron James at the Garden. You know what I'm saying? So, moving forward, if sports are to come back, I just want them to come back at the right time and for the right reasons, right? So if we truly think that sports is going to make everything better, then sure, let's make sure that everything is regulated correctly. Let's make sure we get the vaccinations. Let's make sure that we don't have fans out there. And, for a lot of people, sports are that distraction. But in this instance, we cannot have sports be a distraction. It just has to be something that we are looking forward to, right? Because a distraction is taking away from reality. And we can't lose sight of reality as far as just how deadly this virus is, or just that it is out there. But just for the same reason why I like reading fiction books, if sports can take us to another place for just that just for those 2 hours, or while I'm reading that book, if I can just go to that, world where I'm trying to read about, Atlee Pine, the detective, if that's what sports can be for us, then I'm all for it. But let's not let's not use it as distraction to take away from what the real thing is, and that's surviving this coronavirus, right? So thank you to everyone out there for tuning in to another episode of the Talk That Talk Show. I got one more beer suggestion for you before I go into my sponsors. This beer right here is a Pacifico. I got this because my boy Brian Scholar, me and him, when we went out, when he subbed for me one time, we got this beer, and this is one of my favorite beers. When I went out to San Diego to see my boy Chance DeGroff, shout out to Chance, everybody was drinking these Pacificos. Man, it's just such a good beer. It's such a good beer, right? So, I personally, for me, I wanted to get that Pacifico because, for me, it just represents, being out west and hopefully getting to a time where we can travel again freely, and not have to worry about this coronavirus, right? So for my 2 beer suggestions today, get yourself a Pacifico if you get a chance. You might be able to find this at your local beer stores or at my local beer store. And then also, if you live in Jersey, get one of these Hoffa beers from Bolero Snort Brewery out of New Jersey. So those are my 2 beer suggestions. Don't drink domestic beers. Spend the extra $2-3 and get yourself some quality beer, all right?
Domestic.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So, in closing, want to give a special shout out to our sponsors. Damn, I can't talk today. What's up with this?
Straighten it out.
We got to give our special shout out to our sponsors, VW Liquors, located in Edison, New Jersey, Wick Plaza. Are you ready, Dad?
Ready.
Let's go, Mets! Let's go, Mets! So we always do that for Dave at the end of the show. Want to give a special shout out to Executive Bar and Restaurant located at 30 Menu Street, Carteret, New Jersey. And then also another big shout out to Cody Bromley at 91s.com. Best acid wash apparel in the game. And I promise you, Cody, I'm going to send you that picture with me in that new Threads, so you might get to see Barry Buckets here on an advertisement sometime soon.
Flossing.
Right, flossing. So thank you so much to everybody tuned in. Rob, if you're listening out there, I got to do better in Animal Crossing. I got to get my Nook miles up, right? And then if you've been playing Call of Duty Warzone with me, please make sure that you stay with the team. My one piece of advice to anybody that plays Battle Royale games, right? Please make sure that you stay with your teammates. There's no worse feeling than when you're trying to go into battle and you don't know where any of your friends are, they're nowhere to be found, right? So please, if you're playing Warzone, PUBG, whatever battle royale, stay with your freaking team. That's my piece of advice to you.
Stay with your team.
Stay with your team, all right?
Be true. What's the matter with you?
Right? And this is the end of the Talk That Talk show. So thank you so much for another great episode. We got 49 in the bag. Next episode is going to be the 50th. I might have to break out a little champagne for that. Maybe do something interesting, something special for you all. Because I want you all to know that I appreciate you. And this show is all for you out there, right? So thank you again for tuning in. I love you very much. This is another episode of Talk That Talk Show with Barry Holmes. Also another special shout out to my boy Zishan Abbas, Vitamin Z. He provides the beats for every single one of these shows. Can't say how much I love this guy because he gives us the music to the show. So thank you so much to you, brother. And thank you to everyone out there tuned in. Follow us on Twitter, Talk That Talk SH1. Follow us on Instagram, _ Talk That Talk Show. Follow us on YouTube at the Talk That Talk Show. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. You name it, the Talk That Talk Show is coming for you live. Every single week.
Be there.
You know
Talk
the
that
vibes.
talk.
All right, so I'll see you all next week.